Today I'm going to show you all of my secrets for achieving the perfect flauta, or you probably call it taquito. This is going to be so good. So I'm starting out with 2 russet potatoes. These 2 potatoes are going to be enough to make a dinner for at least 3 to 4 people. Okay, so I'm going to cover the potatoes in water and I'm going to boil these. Now you could peel these first and chop them and boil them, but I always have people telling me that I waste a lot of the potato when I do that, so here we go. We are going to boil these whole. By the way, potato flautas are my favorite, but you definitely can use cooked shredded chicken. I'm going to cover them with a lid to bring up the water to boil quicker, and you want to boil these until they are chopstick tender. Okay, fork tender, but I like to use a middle chopstick. So once you can insert the chopstick or the fork and lift the potato and it falls off without resistance, it's ready. And you just have to be very careful. So what I'm going to do is, since these are ready, they're tender, I'm going to let them cool before I start to peel the skin, just like this. And these are actually still kind of hot, but I'll do the best I can. You could use a spoon to sort of scrape the skin. By the way, comment down below. Do you call them taquitos or flautas? Now, some of you will say taquitos because it's made with corn and they're smaller, and then you'll say they aren't flautas because they're not made with flour. Well, fun fact, I honestly did not grow up having taquitos or flautas made with flour tortillas. It's just not something I do in my house. I'm sure it tastes great. It's just not something that I normally do. If you do that, wonderful for you. I call them flautas, even though they are small in size, and you would want to call them taquitos, but naturally I call them flautas. I'm not saying you're wrong and I'm right. I'm just saying you'll hear me call them flautas in the video. And if you just don't like what I have to say, you can comment down below and argue amongst yourselves. Okay, love you, bye. So at this point, you'll want to mash the boiled potato. And another secret to the perfect, elite, top-tier flauta making system that I have is to use boiled potato on the drier side. I'm going to season this with chicken bouillon powder, which is another little secret of mine. Honestly, is it truly a secret? No. But I like to use chicken bouillon powder, maybe a teaspoon to a teaspoon and a half for this, and granulated onion powder. So if you have leftover mashed potatoes and you want to make potato flautas, I'm just going to preemptively warn you, it's going to ooze all over your pan, which is why I opt to use a drier, mashed, boiled potato with no butter, no cream. But if you do have mashed potatoes and you want potato flautas, you're probably going to have to thicken it up with some cornstarch or all-purpose flour to firm up the potatoes. So for the next secret, if you can call it that, I am going to preheat some cooking oil in a small little fry pan, and I'm going to preheat these corn tortillas. Now, you could do this in the microwave. A lot of people go, just put it in a damp towel in the microwave. It'll soften it. In my opinion, by the time you're rolling the 3rd flauta or taquito, the tortilla is going to break. So passing it through this hot cooking oil for maybe 5 to 10 seconds on each side, you give it a flip and you just repeat the process. Not only is it going to make it soft and pliable and easier for you to roll these up, when you go to fry these and cook these, the end result is the crispiest, crunchiest flauta. Whether you're using potato or chicken or beef, the texture is just, it's the best. So you will want to repeat the process for all of these, and then we're that much closer to rolling these up. Okay, so this is the last one, and I'm going to shut off the heat here. And you'll want to do this a little ahead of time so they have a chance to cool before you work with them. In the meantime, I'm going to add some cooking oil to this fry pan because this is where we're going to fry the flautas. And on to the next secret, and that is to create a flour and water paste. And instead of using toothpicks, which I find quite cumbersome, some of you are just used to the toothpick method, which is absolutely fine. I learned of this taco shop paste hack and I've never looked back. This is what I use, And quite honestly, it just texturally adds crunch. And it also helps the flauta keep its uniform shape. So a good ratio to start with would be 2 to 3 tablespoons of all-purpose flour and 2 tablespoons of water, and add until it's paste-like. You could also sub the flour with cornstarch if you really want to keep these gluten-free. It all works. So another good secret is to keep your workstation all together with the mashed filling, whether it's potato or shredded chicken. I love the potato, and like I said, it's very firm and thick. Here's my pliable vessel for these flautas and the paste that we created with water and flour. And again, you can skip the flour and use cornstarch. Okay, so you're gonna take your corn tortilla, and if you're using flour tortillas, I mean, hey, just make those soft and pliable how you want. You probably don't need to pass them through cooking oil. Here I'm adding maybe like a tablespoon and a half of the potato right to the edge here, and you start to roll it. And I realized after I filmed this that I should have flipped the potato. So when you're doing this, fill the potato on the edge closest to you and roll forward. And you can pull back on the roll to tighten it and keep it more uniform. Okay, and you'll see this little paste, it acts like glue, no toothpick required. So you'll want to place it seam side down to just ensure that it stays closed and it's easier to handle when you go to fry. And just repeat the process for all of your flautas. And honestly, by this second one that I was creating, I realized I needed to flip it around just like this. And like I said, you put it closest to you and roll forward, and you can pull back to tighten the roll and seam side down. So after rolling these out, I want to show you. I have about 14 here, but I still had potato left. So for 2 of these potatoes, I could have easily made 16 to 18 of these. So not bad. That's a pretty budget-friendly meal, in my opinion. Okay, so the fry oil should be ready, and it's time to fry these. And you'll want to place these in the fry oil. You want to preheat it to around 350 degrees Fahrenheit, seam side down. You want to put the seam first and let it fry because it holds everything in place, and you get this nice, uniform, crispity, crunchy flauta. And you'll notice, as soon as I put these flautas in the fry oil, if you decide you want to make potato flautas, nothing oozes out. Now, if you mix cheese into this, yeah, the cheese is probably going to ooze out a little bit, unless you're using a firmer cheese, like maybe queso panela or something. But yeah, I typically just save the cheese as a garnish and topping and just fill with potato. Oh, and also, I think another important thing to mention when you're cooking is proper ventilation. So when I used to film, I would keep the hood vent off as much as possible because, you want like the ASMR, the aesthetic. But quite honestly, when you are frying or cooking with a gas stove range, you want to make sure you turn on that exhaust fan and ventilate your home. Oh, and another important thing to do is always work with clean hands. Okay, so another good tip is to place them on a wire rack after they're cooked. That helps to keep the texture. So these, I'm going to give these a little flip, and you see, perfectly in place because you fried the seam side down first. Now, if you want to freezer prep these, which I do all the time, you'll want to roll these out and place them on a baking sheet, kind of separated, and freeze them first on a baking sheet. And once they are frozen solid, store them in a freezer baggie, and you can fry frozen. And that makes dinner a lot easier to make during the week. So I'm going to take out this first batch, put it on this wire rack, and continue cooking. And these came out perfectly. You want to cook them to golden brown. I also like to give them a light sprinkle of salt while they are still hot or warm. So I love a good dipping sauce, and I'm going to show you how I make a simple one that's perfect. 2 small avocados, ripe, and some pickled jalapenos. And a little bit of salt, water, and the pickling juice. It's perfection. I love this. And you can add as little or as much of the pickled jalapenos as you like. Adjust the spice level, the saltiness, however you like. It's so good. So let me show you a plate. 4 flautas. You add this dip on top. And if you add more of that pickling liquid and water and salt, it could easily be more like a sauce. There's a lot of ways to stretch this, especially with the price of avocados today. Also, top and garnish your taquitos or flautas however you like. What I'm showing you today is my favorite. It's very simple. The avocado dip, crema or sour cream, and queso fresco. If I had cotija cheese, that's what I would top it with. And I dig in. This is my favorite, but garnish how you like. So that is how I achieve the perfect flauta. Well, at least in my opinion. And it's so good. And that crunch, perfect. And I'm gonna mic up so you can hear the perfect crunch. Mm.